Hello from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Vayishlach. Today we will talk about the transformative change that Yakov needs to go through. Yakov is on his way back to the land of Israel after spending 22 years at the house of his father-in-law, Lavan, basically creating a family, and he's on his way back to the land of Israel knowing that it's not going to be easy. His brother Asav definitely wants to kill him. He announced it publicly. And it's true. Yakov tried to send gifts, and all the messengers basically reporting the same thing. Asav is going to kill you. He's coming with 400 people, and you need to be careful. Vayira Yakov meod vayetzer lo. Yakov was very afraid. He was terrified. He was afraid, and vayetzer, which means vayetzer is from the word nero, meaning he felt like stressed. ויחץ את העם אשר איתו, so he split his family to two, ואת הצאן ואת הבקר והגמלים לשני מחנות, and the cattle and the camels and the sheep, he split everything to two. ויאמר אם יבוא עשיו אל המחנה האחת ויקהו, והיה המחנה הנשאר לפליטה. So if Esau will come and basically destroy one camp, at least the second camp can somehow flee. ויאמר יעקב, and Yaakov says, אלוקי אבי אברהם ואלוקי אבי יצחק, the God of my fathers. Hashem אומר עליי שוב לארצך ולמולדתך והייתי עמך. Hashem, you told me to go back, to return to the land of my ancestors. קטונתי מכל החסדים ומכל האמת אשר עשית את עבדיך. I'm not worthy of all the kindness and the blessings that you bestow upon me. כי במקלי עברתי את הירדן הזה ואתה הייתי לשני מחנות. Now look at me. When I left Israel, I just had my staff, and now I'm coming with a family and a flock and everything. And it's because of you, but now I'm stressed because I had to split this camp to two. הצילני נא מיד אחי מיד עשיו, כי הרי אנוכי אותו פן יבוא והיכני אם על בנים. Because I'm terrified from Esau. He might come and basically destroy me, annihilate my family. So God, please help me. So obviously this is the typical Yakov. Afraid. He's trying to prepare, but what can he do against 400 soldiers that Esau gathered? How he's going to protect his family? But that's a very simple read of the narrative. However, when you look at the first verse, when we read the first verse, Vayira Yaakov meod vayetzer lo, he was afraid, and then he felt stress. It seems to be a bit superfluous. Obviously, if someone is afraid, he's under stress, under pressure. And therefore, Rashi comments something very interesting. Rashi says, Chashash shema yihareg. So Vayira, he was afraid. He was afraid to be killed. Vayetzer lo, and he was stressed. Shema yaharog. He might kill others. Now, this is a very interesting comment. Because Rashi basically, by giving this comment, says that Yaakov would not give up without a fight. Yes, he was afraid that he will be killed, but he was also concerned that he will kill others. Now, why should he be concerned by killing others? He's protecting his family. But it shows something about Yaakov. Even though Yaakov was ready now to defend his family as much as he can, he divided the camp to two. He sent gift to Esau. He's trying to appease him. He's also preparing for war. And in that war, he understands that he needs to kill others in order to defend himself. But he would prefer it in a different way. So it says a lot about Yaakov, but also about the change that he's already going through. He is willing to protect his family. He's coming back to Israel. That's it. He's done. He's done running. He's done hiding. He's done deceiving. He will return to the land of Israel to claim what is his. That's not the Yaakov we know. This is not the Yaakov who is trying to hide and to say, I'm Esav and I'm not Yaakov. This is not Yaakov who cannot really negotiate with his father-in-law. This is a little bit of a different Yaakov. He was afraid to be killed, but he was also concerned to kill others. However, Yaakov does not have this ability yet to believe that others can also change. And what do I mean by that? This is a midrash that I will just give an introduction to it. This is Bereshit Rabbah, so it's one of the earlier midrashim. And this midrash can be read in so many different ways. And I'm going to read it and explain it, and I'm going to just say that part of the midrash will definitely make us uncomfortable. And I'll explain. ויקום בלילה הוא, ויקח את שתי נשיו ואת שתי שפחותיו. So he woke up on that night, and he took his two wives, Rachel and Leah, ואת שתי שפחותיו, and Bila and Zilpa. And then the midrash asking the following question, ודינאי חן היא. It says, ויקח את שתי נשיו, two of his wives, Rachel and Leah, and שתי שפחותיו, Bila and Zilpa, and 11 ילדיו, and 11 kids. But where is Dina? Dina also was born. Where is Dina? So the midrash says, נתנה בתיבה ונעל בפניה. Basically, Yakov took Dina, put her in a box, and he closed the box. Why would you do that? אמר, הרשע הזו אינו רמה היא, שלא יתלה עיניו ויראה אותה ויקח אותה ממני. Yaakov was afraid that Asav will look at Dina and will say, oh, I'm going to take her. She's going to be my wife. Come here. And Yaakov didn't want Dina to be married to Asav, so he tried to hide her somewhere. So if we will stop here, we will say, what's the problem? Yaakov knows exactly who is his brother. He definitely does not want his daughter to be married to him. And therefore, he's trying to hide her, so he's trying to protect her. Says the midrash, רב הונא בשם רבי אבא כהן ברדלה אמר, אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, Hashem says to Yaakov, למס מרעהו חסד. This is a verse in Job that says that basically you stole kindness from your friend. What does that mean? Manata mereacha chased. You prevented kindness from your friend. Manata chasdecha min achuch. You prevented Asav from a kind deed that you could have done for him, which means to allow him to take Dina to be his wife. דאילו התנסבית לגברא לא זינתה. לא ביקשת לעשייה למהול, הרי היא נישאת לערל. This is the more problematic section in the midrash. The midrash basically claims that if Yaakov would agree that Dina would marry Asav, she would not have the problem later on in the Parsha with Shechem ben Hamor, who took her by force. לא ביקשת לעשייה למהול, you didn't want her to be married to Asav, who was circumcised, exactly like you. הרי היא נישאת לערל, so she will get married with someone who is not circumcised. Shechem. לא ביקשת לעשייה דרך היתר, you didn't allow her to get married in a nice, proper way. הרי היא נישאת דרך איסור. So she will be married in a very terrible way. הדה הוא דכתיב, that's what the pasuk said, ותצא דינה בת לאה. That she came out. What does that mean, she came out? So the simple understanding is that she just went to see what's going on. But here it's that she came out of the box. Yaakov tried to lock her in the box, and she came out. Now, as I said before, the second section in the midrash, it's not to discuss because this is not the topic of the class. But it is amazing what the midrash is basically saying. The midrash says that Hashem blames Yaakov of all the bad things that happened to Dina. But in addition to it, there is some kind of a disappointment from Yaakov, who didn't believe that Dina might, or at least potentially is able to change Asav. In a way, the midrash perhaps suggests that if Yaakov would believe that his brother can change, like Yaakov, himself is going through a change. He's not the same Yakov of Ish Tam Yoshev Oalim, sits in a tent and learns. For 22 years, he's a shepherd, walks day and night, every day, raising a big family. This is not the same Yakov, struggling with the angel, struggling with his father-in-law, and winning a battle after battle. He did not believe in his daughter that she can change Asav, and he didn't believe that Asav is changeable, that he can change. And the midrash basically criticized Yaakov by saying, Lamas mere'eu chased. Your brother is still your re'eu, he's still your friend or your acquaintance, and you took away chesed from him. You took away the last opportunity for Asav to be related to you. And for that, says the midrash, Yaakov was punished. How? By the story of Dina, which obviously again raises very difficult issues. Like Dina was the one to suffer because of Yaakov. Yaakov should suffer, not Dina. But this is, again, as I said before, this is not for this story, for this class. But the criticism that the midrash has on Yaakov, this is definitely for our class, that Yaakov was able to change, but he didn't believe that someone else can. And it's called Lamas Mere'eu Chased. So let's talk a little bit about Yaakov's challenge with the angel, trying to understand what exactly were the causes of his change and how exactly Yaakov changed. Vayivater Yaakov levado, and Yaakov basically stayed alone. Vayavek ish imo ad alot hashachar, and a man wrestled or struggled or fought with him until dawn. Vayar ki lo yachol lo, this man saw that he cannot overcome Yaakov. Vayiga b'kaf yerecho, so he touched his thigh. Vateka kaf yerech Yaakov be'eavko imo. So Yaakov started limping. Says Ramban, Vainyan. Says the case, the story of this struggle between Yaakov and the angel. This entire event, kulo romez ledorotav. It's all for what will happen in future generations. שיהיה דור בזרעו של יעקב יתגבר עשיו עליהם עד שיהיה קרוב לקעקע ביצתן. Says there is going to be a generation, there's going to be time in Jewish history that Esau will overcome Yaakov and he will be that close to annihilate them. וזה היה בימי חכמי המשנה, כדור של רבי יהודה בן בבא וחבריו, כמו שאמרו, אמר רבי חייא בר אבא, אם יאמר לי אדם תן נפשך על קדושת שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא אני נותן, ובלבד שיהרגוני מיד. אבל בדורו של שמד, איני יכול לסבול. ומה היו עושים בדורו של שמד? היו מביאים כדוריות של ברזל ומלבנים אותם באור, ונותנים אותם תחת שכיהן ומסיעים נפשותיהן מהן. This is a terrible description. Basically, Ramban says that this struggle between Yaakov and the angel, when the angel has the upper hand for a while, says this is the generation of the time of the Mishnah, where the kingdom of Rome, that according to our sages, this is the descendants of Asav, basically tortured the Jewish people in horrendous ways. They said that they will take like little metal material and they will put them in the fire and then they will put them underneath their arms. And to the extent that they will beg, please kill me. The idea is, according to Ramban, that this struggle is not just a local struggle between the angel and Yaakov. It's something that you take for generations. ויש דורות אחרים שעשו עמנו כזה ויותר רע מזה, והכל סבלנו ועבר עלינו כמו שרמז ויבוא יעקב שלם. Says Ramban, this nation tried to kill us so many times, and we were able to survive and to come intact. By the way, don't forget the Ramban himself had to flee Spain because of his argument regarding theology and religion, and he won the debate, but had to flee because they wanted to kill him. So the idea is that in that struggle, Yakov, in a way, as the representative of the Jewish people, and this angel is the representative of Asav, basically are mapping for us what will happen in the future, where sometimes this angel will be able to overcome us and will torture us to death, but at the end, we will have the upper hand. Now, we read that Yaakov stayed by himself. Why would he do that? Vayivater Yaakov levado, and he was like left alone. Says Rashi, Shachach pachim ktanim v'chazar aleim. Yaakov basically took his family across the river and brought them to here. Then he remembered, oops, I forgot a glass of water and I forgot a little china bowl. Okay, so he went back by himself at night to try to pick them up. Why would you do that? So, it seems to be, and that's where what our sages says, tzadikim chaviv aleim mamonam migufam, ken shelo ba derech gezel. Says Yaakov, those little vessels were precious in his eyes because he worked for them. He worked for them very hard. He didn't steal them. He didn't take them by force. So therefore, he cared about them. Again, still does not mean that you need to go back at night to that place and be there by yourself. Says Ramban, "V'derech hapshat vayikachem vayavirem et hanachal eviram imo." He took all his family with him. Vayaver et asher lo betzivui ki chazar v'tziva sheyavru lefanav v'nishar hu acharehem. So now, the Ramban said something interesting. The Ramban says that Yaakov had this character of a commander in the IDF, which means, acharai, after me. Yaakov takes part of the family, bring them here. He goes back to bring the other side of the family, bring them to the other side of the river. Then he goes back to bring the flock, the cattle, the camels, whatever. And he brings them and he goes back and he tells them, okay, you go, I'll stay. I'll protect you from the rear. I will make sure that you will be safe. And at the end of all these transformations, bringing them here and forth, he stays alone. So the Ramban says it's not that Yaakov was looking for little vessels or he was worried about some kind of a minuscule object that he forgot, but rather exactly the opposite. Yaakov shows tremendous responsibility for his family, making sure that each one of them cross the river safely, and he makes sure that they will not be attacked. Yaakov has tremendous love for his family, which obviously trickle into our days, that this is definitely one of the Jewish characteristics, is to make sure that the family is safe and sound. Says the Sforno, Vayivater Yaakov levado, and Yaakov was left alone, acharon lekulam linsua min hamachane. Again, he was the last one to leave the camp, כדי להדריך את כל עמו שילכו עם כל קניינו, ולא יישאר דבר במחנה. To make sure that there is nothing there, that no one forgot anything, and he is then sure that they can move from one place to another. So, if we stop here for a second, before we go into this tension between Yaakov and Esav, we look at Yaakov and we see a changed man. Not to the full extent yet, but definitely a changed person. From someone who was not able to deal, quote unquote, with reality, to someone who definitely can understand the reality, can understand the issues, and try to stand for what is right. He fled the land of Israel. He fled his father-in-law's house. But then, he had to face reality. Lavan caught up with him and chastised him. And Yaakov had to answer back. Then he goes to the land of Israel. He's not being greeted with flowers. He's greeted by an angry brother who comes down. And then this brother basically says to him, before the brother, he needs to meet the angel who fights against him. And in a way, makes some kind of a permanent damage, which is through Jewish history, where Asav and his descendants are trying to overcome us. But we need to what? Says Yakov, you need to believe that you can do it. Ki sarita im Elokim v'im anashim v'tuchal. You are able to struggle with people and with angels, and you are able to overcome it. And then Yaakov has some faults, yet he cannot believe that someone else can change. He can't believe that Asav can change, and he can't believe that his daughter Dina can change Asav. So we have this ups and downs with Yaakov, and I will just say that even when the angel changes Yaakov's name from Yaakov to Israel, and it says, Lo ya'amer ot shimcha Yaakov ki im Israel yeh shemecha, no more Yaakov, only Israel, we continue to call Yaakov Yaakov. Because Yaakov and Israel, Yaakov, which means Ekev, like from the heel, and Israel is Yashar, is straight. These two components of Yaakov's personality are in tension all the time. Because Yaakov's nature is to be Yaakov, not to be Israel. He's to be humble and not to fight for what you believe in, and just to be more naive and complete. But the character of Israel, of Sarita, of struggling, of yes, standing on your own feet and say what you think, lead your life, shape it. That's something that Yaakov needs to work on. Says Ovadia, והיה בית יעקב אש, ובית יוסף להבה, ובית עשיו לקש. The pasuk says, and the house of Jacob will be like fire, the house of Joseph will be like the flame, and Beit Asav and the house of Esau will be like straw. ודלקו בהם ואכלום ולא יהיה שריד לבית עשיו כי השם דיבר. So the fire and the flames will consume the straw, and Esau will be left with nothing. וירשו הנגב את הר עשיו והשפלה את הפלישתים, וירשו את שדה אפרים ואת שדה שומרון ובנימין את הגלעד. The Jewish people will conquer all this land. וגלות החל הזה, לבני ישראל אשר כנענים עד צרפת, וגלות ירושלים אשר בספרד ירשו את ערי הנגב. And all the people from the exile will come and conquer the land of Israel. ועלו מושיעים בהר ציון לשפוט את הר עשיו, and the saviors will ascend to Mount Zion to judge Asav, והייתה להשם המלוכה. And Hashem will have a full kingdom. So the end of times, Asav is going to be weakened. Weakened to almost annihilation, but definitely to the recognition of God's sovereignty. Says Radak, והייתה להשם המלוכה, ואז תהיה המלוכה להשם לבדו. At that moment, Hashem will be the only king. כי כל הגויים ידעו במלכותו, כמו שאמר בנבואת זכריה, והיה השם למלך על כל הארץ. All the non-Jews will recognize it and will internalize the fact that God is the only God, and He's the king of earth, on the earth. ההוא יהיה השם אחד ושמו אחד, will have one name. ויונתם תרגם ותתגלי מלכותא דהשם בקריב על כל ית וערה, ותהי מלכותא דהשם לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. So God's kingdom will be revealed soon, and from within all the other residents, and everyone will recognize God's kingdom. So, until now, we basically see, based on Ovadia, that Asav, in a way, does not have any redeeming factor at the end of times. God will judge them and will annihilate them. Is that true? The Yalkut Shimoni said something fascinating. He says, Et HaGamal, in the list of the non-kosher animals, it says Et HaGamal, the camel, Et HaShafan, the rabbit, Arnevet, which is, I guess, another type of rabbit, and then Chazir, the pig. So he says like that, Et HaGamal, and now, Gamal, the camel, Arnevet and Shafan, and the two types of rabbits, their problem is that they are ma'alim gira, which means they bring the food up, but their hoofs are not split. The chazir, his hoofs are split, but he does not bring his food back. Says the midrash, Et hagamal zu Bavel. The camel does not mean only a camel as an animal, but rather it's the nation of the Babylonians. Ki ma'ala girahu. What is gira? According to the midrash, is ligror, to bring after her, shegarera malchut acharya. That Bavel brought after Bavel, there was the Persians, that they tried to annihilate the Jewish people. Veta shafan, and that one type, let's call it first type of a rabbit, zu Madai, it's the nation of Madai, ki ma'ala girahu, shegarera malchut acharya. She also brought another malchut after. Veta arnevet, and this second type of a rabbit, also was a nation that controlled Am Yisrael. Veta chazir, and the pig, zu malchut revi'it. And what is the fourth kingdom that will try to oppose the Jewish people? It's Rome, Asav. Vehu gira lo igar, shelo garera malchut acharya. But after that exile, after that conquest of Rome over Israel, that will be the last one. So just 1 second. Why Asav is being represented by a pig, by chazir? Listen to what the midrash has to offer. Lama nikra shma chazir? Why the name of this nation is chazir? Shemachzeret atara liv'alea. That she brings back the crown to its rightful owner. Hada u'tichtiv, that's what it says in Ovadia. V'alu mushim be'ar Tzion nishpot et haresa v'ayta la'Hashem hamlucha. That the saviors will go ascend Har Tzion, the mountain of Zion, to judge Har Esav, and Hashem will have the full kingdom. So, what is this midrash trying to tell us? I think the midrash is trying to tell us that Esav also have some kind of a redeeming factor. Maybe not intentionally, but through him, God's kingdom will be recognized by everyone. The word chazir, which we translated into English into a pig, has in the Hebrew has from the word chazara, to return, lachzor, to go back, to return, which means at the time when Esav has the power, in a way he is causing everyone to forget God. But when God will redeem Am Yisrael, will redeem the Jewish people, and he will judge Har Esav, and he will judge the mountain of Esav and his descendants. Through this judgment, everyone will recognize God, which means Esav and his descendants took away God's glory from Am Yisrael, or at least it was perceived like that. But after the judgment, after the trial, it will be choser, it will return back to Am Yisrael. And I think there is something very interesting here. And that goes back to the midrash that we mentioned, which was a complicated midrash. We basically said that perhaps history could have been different. If Yakov would believe in Dina, that she is strong enough to change Asav, and if he would believe that Asav is changeable. But because of that decision, we need to go through many, many, many years of afflictions, tribulations, challenges, until that day that Vaya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz, that Hashem will be the only king. And I think that the lessons that we can take from this parsha is everyone goes through a change. Some through a transformative change, some through a smaller change. But it all starts with us. We need to believe that we have the power to change. First, ourselves, and B, to have faith that others has the power and the will to change. It's not easy. Yakov went through a lot, and he himself, in a way, even shied away from it, because in Parashat Vayeshev, it says that Yakov wanted just to sit with tranquility and not to be challenged. And God then obviously didn't like it, so there was a problem with Joseph and his brothers. Life is challenges. But life is the ability to change. It's the faith that I can change and I can change my future. I can change my fate. And I need to believe that others can do the same. So Yakov is going through a change, but not enough. He still has some way to go. And for us, already knowing it, we can't wait for the world to change. But you and I can change the world. Thank you.